More than anything else, I just want people to know that it is okay to talk about like these deeply uncomfortable things. Like a feeling won't kill you. How we respond to feelings may kill you, but a feeling won't. It is what is on the other side of pushing through that is worth its weight in, diamonds or whatever. Like, I just encourage anyone who may be suffering to find somebody they can speak to.
Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity in our conversations around trauma and celebrate all the unique ways we love and heal. Hello and welcome everybody to this next episode of Just Healing. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I am really, really into the arts and film and theater and all of that. So we have some very, very special guests here to talk about a new film they have coming out. So why don't you both introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Juan Calix. I am an actor and a writer and a singer and a producer. And I wrote this film, What You Deserve, which is about my experiences with sexual assault.
And I am Evan Enslow. I am a friend of Juan and a producer for the film. We've known each other for a while, based in New York. And I'm just really grateful to be here working on this film and talking about making a difference with it.
Awesome. Well, how did you get connected to Just Healing?
So actually, Deborah, you have a friend, Greg Franklin, who is a friend of mine here in New York. And he has had several events that I've been fortunate enough to attend as he's been developing projects here. And I have been sharing some of the work I've been doing. And he thought this would be a good connection, knowing you, with some of the themes and topics we're discussing within the script. So I'm super, super grateful to Greg for making the connection.
That's pretty concise. I mean, in our search and our like desire to connect the people we encounter and sharing our stories to like places where they can land to actually find resources for help. Y'all came up and it was like a boop,
Kismet, right? Like, what's interesting, I've met the most beautiful, nicest people through Greg, and it's interesting because I'm like so in the arts, but I take a different seat in it. I love to do things behind the scenes and things like that. Even though I have a big personality, I want the stories to come from other people. Right. And so how did you guys start this journey together?
Well, I'm a sober person and in sobriety, been sober for over 6 years now, which is awesome. And thank you. Yeah, I remember sitting in rehab and, it's like adult toddlers. The crazy stuff is happening and I'm taking notes because I'm like, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write about this. And then it became a screenplay. And so the beginning of this year, I reached out to our director, Corey Bortnicker. And very shortly after that, I asked Evan if he would mentor me on how to produce, this story, how to get this thing made. And Evan has been instrumental in getting us to where we are right now. So I'm very grateful. Like this is going to happen. So yeah.
Yeah, I would just add, I'm also sober, and as is our director, something that we're all happy to talk about. And that's been one thing that's been really cool about this experience is I've been producing for a few years, and Corey the director's also made some other really incredible projects that he's had go through the festivals. And so we've talked in the past about working together, and he brought this project that Juan had developed to the table. And I was so happy to hear from both of them and have a reason for all of us to collaborate, because we're running in a lot of the same circles here. And we have a lot of the same backgrounds and kind of point of view on what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. So it was really cool for all the planets to align and for this project to exist for us to collaborate together on.
Yeah, and it's really going to open a lot of doors for people, because I notice that people, when they have something tangible to see, it brings things up for them. But I can't imagine, Juan, how vulnerable did you have to be to put this out there?
I mean, I think there's a lot of power in vulnerability, and getting sober and telling my journey, being honest with that, learning what honesty actually is and self-honesty, being honest to myself. But also like I'm HIV positive as well, and I kind of have I had a lot of wonderful people around me who adopted the attitude of being vocal about their being honest with their truth and stuff like that. So I've always had this connection with power and vulnerability. But what was I think what kind of blew my mind about the whole situation was the therapeutic aspect of it that I needed to go through, like needing to go through trauma therapy to be able to be in a safe place and tolerate what the vulnerability brought up, you know? Um, it took a lot of, it's weird for me to talk about myself like this sometimes, but it took a lot of courage to sit there with, like prolonged exposure therapy and go over it again and again and again and again and again and again. But it worked. It really worked because I was able to create this thing, but also I just learned that where healing comes from, it does come from vulnerability, like it's scary, yeah, it is, but I'll do whatever the heck I have to survive now. So
But now, it's interesting because when I work with survivors, one of the things I do is I have these two little pencils that are in my desk. One is really small and one is really big, right? And I say, especially if they're younger than they were now, right? I say, this is you then, right? And your person who hurt you was a lot bigger than you. And now you're just as big. You can protect that little you. And they didn't get that, right? And that's part of being vulnerable, is realizing like you can take care of that trauma inside because things are triggering, and it's so awesome when someone can really see that. And that's what makes the story come out and all of that, because you begin that healing journey of healing that smaller you.
yeah, that was really beautifully put. I just thank you for that. I think hearing that is really helpful. It is. I do have the capacity to care for myself now, and that I have evidence to prove that. I have years worth of evidence to prove that, and sometimes I forget. It's hard to kind of break free of those entrenched the harm that's caused. But so anyway, thank you. That's a really wonderful metaphor.
You're welcome. But
Yeah.
just doing this film is showing you can take care of yourself, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing. And what has the journey been like for both of you going through this process? Like, has it been ups and downs? And I mean, I can't imagine. I tried to write a screenplay years ago, and everybody should not write screenplays, just to let you know. So
Mm, it's been tough. It's been mostly wonderful, and I've had nothing but like okay, I'm gonna just say it. So the end of April, I was actually sexually assaulted, and it triggered my PTSD in a really brutal way. So like my brain was like I couldn't work for like a week and a half. My brain is still has not bounced back, and having Evan and his team not even in my corner, but just next to me, supporting me through this has been that's what reaching out does. Like, like because doing this alone doesn't have to be an option. And the work is continuing to get done. I feel supported. I can take care of my mental health, or to and show up how I need to show up. So before anything else, that's what's here in this collaboration. Of course, we have some artistic differences about something of which we were talking earlier today. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'll say this is that I wouldn't feel comfortable being as honest and as firm about certain things if I didn't trust this man right here and our director.
Percent. Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I believe in Juan's journey and the healing process of this situation. And that's something I can so easily get behind, and I really want, when we hit those artistic differences, what I always fall back on is, what is the purpose and where does this really come from? And originally that came from Juan. It's Juan's story to tell. It's very truthful. It's very vulnerable. And my point of view on a lot of how the film's being developed and where it's going to go is I'm looking to see it succeed. I'm looking to see it, reach new audiences and, have a loud voice. And so a lot of what I'm looking for can sometimes get lost in the noise of just simply trying to tell the story. And that's where I think we really balance each other out a lot, is a lot of the semantics versus the narratives, and how do we make those things come together and really tell the best possible story. The growth we've been on also from the beginning, it really did kind of start as Juan was like, hey, do you want to kind of just give me some advice, talk a little bit? And then it was like, so yeah, I would love to do that. And then it was like once a week, and then maybe a couple times a week. And then it became this rhythm. And I'm super, super happy about that. I was talking to one of my co-producers about, just what is the journey when you grab onto a short film or a new project? It takes all of the space, it just starts to become this thing where it's your baby and you have to nurture it, and it needs so much attention and love. And there's also like so many more new things you can do for, that, whatever that is, whether that's a pilot, a short film, a feature. There's more ideas and more creative ways to get it out there. And it takes a lot of people to really give it everything that it deserves. I'm just really, really happy that this is where we're at, and I'm excited to see how it's going to continue to develop, because even just today we have lots of new ideas, and it's active, which I love.
That's awesome. And I wonder, what do you vision this being for survivors?
I really just want this piece to show survivors that first of all, to just be like, oh, maybe that wasn't what I thought it was. But also, like, no matter where you are in your journey, asking for help or just admitting that you can't do this anymore, that is a strong choice. It is always a strong choice to ask for help. Because, like, I suffered with toxic shame for the majority of my life. I fully and firmly believe that I didn't deserve anything good, anything. And I didn't even have an opportunity to start wrestling with that until I reached out to somebody and said, I can't take this anymore. I can't do it. And once that happened, then I could start to realize, then I could start being that big pencil, getting ready to take care of myself. So that's what I want this to do. The power of seeing something, the visual medium of film, is so powerful in healing. It's so powerful. And it's a tool that was used for us when I was in the various treatment facilities that I was in. And I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful for it. And that's what I want this film to do. I want it to reach far and wide for people who need help, and I do also, Evan can speak to this a bit, but like to also kind of to pierce into the normal people's zeitgeist. Not that we're not normal, whatever, nobody's normal, but to that's where we need to hit. That's where we need to hit as well. Not only people who are survivors, but for people who don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we're talking about which zeitgeist, like, area it's trying to reach out to, what I really pulled from the script is that there's different ways that we kind of grow and create these ideas of ourselves, and like there's so much weight that sits on top of us that's like takes all this work to get through. When I got sober, one of the biggest things, when I got sober and it worked, I said, I'm going to be gayer. I'm going to be gayer than I was before, because I have to stop like carrying this weight of like, is it wrong? Is it right? Like all these things that go with it. And that's definitely one of the areas in the script that I immediately connected to, was just that this can be a lifelong journey of trauma. When we're in a space where we don't know that the things that are happening around us, whether they're good or bad, and I come from a religious background. My family and I are very close, but that process of trying to discover that was tumultuous. It was really tumultuous. And no matter what I did to try to work on that, I still carried this kind of like protective screen, and I needed to break free. I needed to be authentically myself. And this film definitely really shines a light on, how somebody can internalize something that's outside of themselves, something that has either happened to them or around them, and how that can become such a big part of them. And then they carry that for so long. That is so unfair. That's so unfair. There's so many beautiful things in life that we either don't see or we take them for granted because we're spending so much time trying to just break that apart and like remake that. And I love that this conversation, this film brings up that conversation that, we have a lot of trauma or, just different backgrounds that we're all trying to sift through. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, you talked about toxic masculinity and, that you have to be a certain way, or you have shame and you have blame for what happened to you, right? And my husband's a survivor, and he did a research study on the intersection of shame and blame, and how the fact that someone blamed him made him feel so shameful for who he was, right? And people don't realize society does that by ascribing all of these things onto men, And what was funny is that my son, when he was born, my husband was so cautious about not doing that and letting him choose his own path and all this stuff. And I remember we were playing the game of life one day, and you have to pick your mommy and your daddy or whatever. And my son, he picked two guys because he just didn't think about it. And we're like, okay. And then my daughter picked two girls. And then when next time he picked a guy and a girl. And because we didn't say nothing because he hadn't said his gender preference yet.
Yeah.
And I said, what a difference that is compared to when I was raised, compared to when my husband was raised. But my son does not tote that around. And I remember we were in a store the other day. And my son said, Mom, it's okay. I like girls. I know that. I'm asserting my gender preference now. It's okay for you to say that. And I was like, he didn't know how I was like inside going, because he didn't have anything like, oh, she's going to get mad or whatever. It was just it was just like, we're going to buy chips today.
Incredible. That's incredible.
But what a message that can send, because you're allowing people to talk is what I'm saying, like making this film, right?
Absolutely. That's like, something we learned, I think, sobriety, or that I've learned in, like being a nerd about mental health and stuff like that. The shame exists in secrecy and silence, like that's, and shame is is in the foundation of addiction. It's in the foundation of, survivors and stuff like that. And the way to combat shame is through compassion and empathy, both of which require connection. So whether it's verbal, visual, whatever, being able to connect to somebody, connect to something is going to immediately reduce that shame. And that, like, for me, that relief just, I instinctively knew that that path was the correct path for me. To just reduce that shame in any way possible. And that, leading to connection, like that is just, it's what I see every time I go to the 12-step rooms. We connect. People put drugs down. You know what I mean? Like it's funny. Like we see it every day and we experience it so often, but yet when we're seeking it, it seems like it's a miracle. Like, oh wow, it's connection. Which I love. I love that it's a huge miracle to people, but we do it all the time. We do it all the time. We are social creatures. It is necessary for us to connect like that. And I know that it works because I see it all the time.
Yeah. And seeing it and witnessing it, like it just gives you a charge, right? And I'm wondering, as you're going through this, what barriers, like, do you think are going to be difficult in getting this out there, or people being receptive to it?
I think one thing, if we just take a look at the not logistics, but the way that people start to market film, they're going to immediately pigeonhole it into the LGBTQ space, which isn't a bad thing. As a matter of fact, it's actually a really, really good thing for that. But that can limit how many people see it at first. So we're gonna have to work to, to drive it through and stuff like that. But that's what happens when you're on the edges of society, when you're marginalized. You just got to push a little bit harder. Like we are a ragtag little bunch of people who we're fundraising from the ground up too. So that is always a hurdle. We are always looking for opportunities to be able to make this story to the best of its ability. But as far as some like other, this piece is a proven conversation starter. It is a proven conversation starter. Like nothing but conversations has come since I started like moving this into production. And through these conversations, like positive things happen. Like change can be uncomfortable for people, but for all of us, but to me, that aspect of this just vastly outweighs any challenges that have come up, and I think that will continue to come up because I don't care about what kind of pushback there is when it's people's lives that are at stake and their livelihood. I don't care. I will. It's just part of who I am. I will push to help people. I can't. Look, 6 years ago, you could ask somebody that question, they would have said, hell to the no, not Juan, not this one, but but I guess it's who I am today. So
that's what recovery does, so it's amazing. Evan, what do you think? You think there's some barriers?
I definitely think there's going to be the LGBT narrative is going to be something where you do have to pivot, and you actually have to overcome. Do you if you focus on that and you make it all about that, then it becomes that. And then how do you like supersede? And it's like, so are you marketing it as an LGBT film or are you just marketing it as a film? And we're definitely going to be doing both, but we want to be able to go into all the spaces. We want to be able to capitalize on whatever we can. And the subject matter also can be off-putting. And you don't want to come off as taking advantage of an atrocity like that and then trying to market that. So like there's also the space on like how are we creating conversations around this? How are we making space but being respectful of the material that we have? Because that's definitely something where it's like we're not trying to create clickbait. We're really trying to tell an authentic story that comes from a real point of view. And I think that will be a challenge. And how effectively we're able to like make this a beautiful, cinematic, truthful, humble, and authentic experience, I think is going to be what makes a big difference on the audiences that we're able to get their attention. I think that's going to make a big difference.
Right. I mean, you could have a trigger warning in front of it and package it, have two different ways that you're packaging and distributing, just because, right? I will say that there's lots of people who say, oh, this is about men. Why are you focusing on that? And, why aren't you looking at women and all this? Because nobody focuses on men. Like, that's why. And that's why men do not say anything. That's why they're silenced, right? And so it will be a challenge, but yet it won't because things have changed. Things have changed a lot in the past 6 years, in the past 10 years, But
yeah.
People like to give pushback.
Yeah, I think I've been very fortunate that I have spoken to some women about when I was first starting to write this story, like about feeling uncomfortable about taking space from women because they are hugely, horribly victimized, as sexual harm. And the women that I spoke to were like, just tell your story. And I think that's good, but because the fact that this is a real story, or it's like heavily based on a real story, is like, in all that chatter, is just, this is just a real story that we're telling here. Like take it or leave it. You have your opinions about it. That's on you. But at the end of the day, this actually happened to a boy. Yeah, because it happens all the time.
Because it's real and they should believe you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot that like, do you know, like I didn't even like realize what had happened to me was actually rape until 10 years later. Like I didn't concept like it was there was some repression, but conceptually, like I didn't even know. Like I told myself that a very, very common thing that I didn't fight back, so I deserved it. That's what my
Mm-hmm.
brain decided to do to deal with the
Mm-hmm.
situation. But the overwhelming hurdles that came up because of my masculinity, I guess, like you're a man, you should have been able to fight him off. Men are supposed to fight. Like, stop bitching about this. This isn't, it's not whatever. Or like all of these like layers of thing that buried the harm in a really, really disastrous shell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have to say that it's really nice to know. You know, I just did my little intake interview for the online session for Men Healing today. And it was nice to be thinking about being in a group of other men and male identifying people who are willing to talk about their stories like I am. You
That's
know,
awesome.
I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to create a community. The film is, and I'm wondering where are you guys going to show it when it comes out? Like, are you thinking of film festivals, or is it going to be a blockbuster? Like, tell me, tell me, tell me. I know people are wondering, so.
Well, that definitely depends on many factors. I think to start, it's going to be, something that we kind of privately screen and kind of show to people around us. And after that, we'll start to submit to festivals and kind of get a scope on what is going to be our festival strategy, because the festival game can have a whole set of politics and rules and things about it. So we're going to definitely kind of look at exactly how we want to go through that process. We'll certainly try to keep it local. We're based in New York, and the last time I took a film out, keeping a lot of the festivals close to home definitely created a lot more buzz, and it was
Mm,
definitely more people were able to attend that we knew, which is awesome. I think in the big picture, we definitely want to get this into colleges, institutions. I think we really want to try to get this out there in a much bigger way. Um, but initially, it'll be a slow rollout. And then I hope that we're able to kind of use this as a vehicle and as a resource for really anywhere and everywhere that people can relate to the story and get something out of it. And that just really comes down to, word of mouth and what kind of community we build along the way.
awesome. Well, we are out of time, and so why don't we wrap it up with you telling us what you want to leave us with?
Well, thank you first and foremost for not only this, but being a place where survivors can come to find community and find, continued healing in their journey. I like more than anything else, I just want people to know that it is okay to talk about like these deeply uncomfortable things like that. Like a feeling won't kill you. How we respond to feelings may kill you, but a feeling won't. Like it is what is on the other side of pushing through that is worth its weight in, diamonds or whatever. Like, so I just encourage anyone who may be suffering to find somebody they can speak to about it. Yeah.
It's a beautiful one. I'm sad we're out of time. I would love to keep talking. This has been really helpful just doing this. This is great. This feels so good. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this. And I think probably what I would want to leave this podcast with is, it's a journey. This moment right here is part of the healing experience of everything that we've done and everything we've been and everything we're, going to be. There is really no destination of like when it's going to be done and it's going to be figured out. It's just what we have going on right here, right now. And I just want to always make sure I'm looking for those opportunities to be joyful and grateful and just be happy with, where I'm going, and that it's okay. It's already okay. Yeah, but thank you. This is really awesome.
And how do people get in touch with you?
Instagram is great at the Juan Calix, TheJuancalix, or at What You Deserve Film. I'm not going to spell that out. Those are great ways to get in touch with me or with our team.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And my production company is In Media. It's EN Media NY on Instagram as well. And all the updates for this and the film and everything else we have going on will be there.
Well, I will be following you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Just Healing.